Hello, everybody. As you're joining in, I'm posting in the chat so you can join us in Mentimeter. Go ahead and go to menti.com on another browser window or on your mobile device, and you can use the code included there to join us. We'll have a few poll questions throughout our session here together. So we'll give everybody a couple minutes to join in, and then we will go ahead and get started with our discussion with you all today. And just standard operating procedure, asking everybody who's not a presenter with us today, make sure you stay on mute. If you are worried about bandwidth, go ahead, you can keep your camera off if that's all right with you. We'll potentially have some Q&A at the end if we have time, and you can flip your cameras on and unmute yourselves if we get to have enough time for that. But otherwise, we'll save that for our friends here from Bayer, who are going to be presenting and telling us more about structuring inclusion and diversity. So I will give you guys a quick intro to myself while you're all getting joined in. My name's Jesse Lundgren. I'm from Bayer Crop Science. I'm a pipeline planning analyst, which basically means I work with. If you are chatting in the background there, go ahead and mute yourselves, please, as we're getting into the discussion here. I work with vegetable seed division, and we, in my role as a planner, help with placement of trials across all of the Americas. I'm the culture lead for our blend group out of St. Louis. I was lucky enough to get married to my husband, Josh, last year. So really happy about that. Even though it was a small COVID wedding, we had a great time. We're really happy to be together. We like to do things outside, skiing, hiking, adventures, camping. This is my gay job, as we like to say, because while my day job is great, this is really my passion, is in culture, inclusion, and diversity. So really excited to be here with you all today. Now, if you've gotten your Menti up, I will post that code again in the chat, so it's easy for you all to join us. If you are logged in, go ahead and let us know where you're joining from today. So I see we have a few from the Americas, it looks like. I saw someone in the chat say hello from India, so I think we should have a click on there pretty soon. And thank you for staying up or getting up early. I'm not sure what time it is in India, but I know it's about 12 hours or so different from where I'm at, something like that. So good to see you there. It looks like we have someone from South America. The US bubble keeps getting bigger. 19 responses. Ooh, 3:30 in the morning in India. Well, you are a trooper, Nishad. I hope I said your name right. Thanks for joining us all the way from India. Really excited to have you here. Looks like we have maybe someone from Canada now as well. Grand Junction, Colorado, represent. Nice to see you. West Hollywood, love it. More friends from St. Louis, awesome. Well, really great to see our people from all over the Americas joining us. Oop, I see Melbourne, Australia. Yep, great. We have a really nice, big, diverse group. Let's ask another question to get to know everybody a little bit. Oh, I guess no. Oh, go. Too fast, Frankie. How would you describe your organization's approach to inclusion and diversity? We have at Bayer, we are working on having a structured framework. I can tell you that, and we're going to be sharing that with you today. But let's see what our responses are. We have folks saying there's some structure, but not fully aligned. I don't see any no structure, which is good. That means that there's some organization going on for sure. And good to see, since you all are here, definitely a lot of passionate folks interested in creating and developing structure for their organization. So really great to see that. 44 responses, that's really good, and keeps climbing. Awesome. With the way that we're doing things at Bayer, I'll share as you're finishing up, including your things here. We have structured our organization into 4 major pillars: culture, talent, business, and brand. This really gave us a comprehensive approach and a strategic framework that we could work under. When we talk about some of these different pillars, culture really reflects our day-to-day behaviors and actions, and how inclusive behavior can help us with our expectations that most people have encoded into them, and really helps us bring out our people and our business and structured processes. So you can see a sampling of some of the things in the slide here of what gets impacted through looking at things in an inclusive lens. So how do we track whether or not our employees are engaged? Who's engaged? Why are they engaged? Do we explicitly require leaders to be inclusive? And do we include that in their competencies and training modules? Are we breaking down silos and collaborating across divisions? When we talk about talent, are we doing things to ensure that our talent acquisition and development and retention rates and processes are inclusive? So are we, unnecessarily limited in where we're going to find the best talent? Do we have opportunities to expand and make investments? And what is our attrition telling us? Is it an indicator of where we need to leverage talent better? We also have business.
Or what we say yes and no to, or
you could mute yourself there, please, Janet. For our business process, this reflects our efforts to intentionally engage our customers through a multicultural lens. So this understanding of our customers should help us as we go to market. And then when we consider vendors that we're leveraging to grow our business, how are we considering them? Are we looking intentionally for minority-owned and women-owned businesses and businesses run by people with disabilities? Is this even part of your procurement process? And last is brand, where we think about how us as an employer of choice, how do we become an Oh, sorry, I got muted there, I guess. How do we engage with our industry and become the best leaders? And do our customers think of us and feel represented by our products and our brands? So that's an introduction to our strategic framework at Bayer and how our inclusive practices have helped us develop this structure. So now I'd like to introduce to you our panelists. We have one for each of our pillars. So I will go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Paul, if you could get us started, and we'll move left to right for the folks that you see on the screen.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Kerbach. I am our US lead for our culture pillar for Blend. I started out in our St. Louis office and had our culture for our St. Louis chapter, and then took this role this year. Really focus on, again, competencies, engagement. How do we bring culture into the workplace here at Bayer, but then also how do we work across our different BRGs and connect, ensuring we're bringing good training, development, competencies, communication fits under that, some policy work. So pretty cool pillar across to work with, lots of fun things to touch and work with.
Great, I agree. I like culture too. That's why I'm the St. Louis pillar.
Well,
and Jacelyn, how about you?
Present.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Allwine. I am the talent lead for Blend US. I am also a manager of quality for quality systems in our product supply division at the Myerstown site. I work primarily on personal and professional development, OSTEM. We participate in OSTEM at least twice a year, and Out and Equal, getting folks to come and participate in the conference is basically some of the highlights for my pillar.
Great, thanks, Jacqueline. Greg?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it might be. My name is Greg LeClaire. My pronouns are he, him. I work in our pharmaceutical business as U.S. Advocacy Relations Lead for hemophilia and for pulmonary hypertension. And I lead the business pillar. When I first started with BEAR, I was part of the global blend, not just the US, and I led the development of the business pillar for our global team. Then when I came back to the US after an expat assignment in Switzerland, I wanted to be part of the US evolution of the business pillar. It's important that we recognize that in our three major businesses, which include pharmaceuticals, crop science, and consumer health, that we link the work that we do on behalf of our constituents and from the LGBTQ plus community to the business that we do, so that our customers see how we show up relative to blend.
Great, thank you for that introduction, Greg. Last but not least, Beth, how about you introduce yourself to us?
So I'm Beth Verge. Pronouns are they, them. I reside in the St. Louis area and I work in IT for BEAR. So I'm a senior experience product manager, building internal facing applications that support our crop science business. And as the brand lead, I get to work heavily in the community engagement arena. So making sure that we coordinate the sponsorship of area nonprofits for all the chapters that we have, volunteering at community events hosted by those nonprofits, acquiring swag to give away at some of those community events, and then distribution of BEAR images for any events that we would host that we would also sponsorship. So it's really all about getting our logo and ourselves and our face out there to the community to make sure that everyone knows that we support LGBT plus issues.
Fantastic. Thanks everybody for giving us your intros. Now, my first question for you all today is, what is something measurable that Blend and particularly your pillar is doing right now? And how are you tracking your progress in these different areas? So I think we'll just work left to right with this question again. So Paul, if you could start us off.
Yeah, so one of the things that we decided would be measurable and things that we could track and potentially improve upon, because that's what we do when we track, we want to drive continuous improvement. We looked at the number of events that we were hosting and bringing to the business. So we set a goal to have a set number of events to be presented. And then we also track the number of meetings that we have with folks that may not be an event or presentation. So if we do a leadership team meeting or something, we like to track the number of people that we touch in those situations. How many people are we reaching out to? How many people are we connecting with? So starting to get a baseline on those numbers, as we've been a newer organization brought together over the last couple of years as our businesses combined. We see that as an opportunity for us to continue to track how well we're doing, how well we're reaching our employees, and how many people that we're connecting with throughout our business. We do that both at our national and chapter level. So as we offer events from different chapters, those count towards that overall presentation for Blend US. So as we look at our structure, we're able to bring the best of what our people are doing at different spots and ensuring that gets shared from coast to coast. And in some cases, as Greg mentioned, we're a global business resource group. We're able to connect with folks from other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Canada, for example, we're able to bring them in for some presentations in June. So lots of different ways that we're able to connect and really just tracking how many people we talk to, how many times we talk to people. And those are some concrete numbers that we've started with that we can start to mark improvement with.
Great, thank you for sharing that, Paul. Jacqueline, how about you? What's our measurable things you're doing in the talent pillar?
So for the talent pillar, for OSTEM involvement, we can track how many people come to our OSTEM booth, that we were able to interact with at the different sessions. For Out and Equal, the same thing for recruiting, you know, the different amount of people that reach out to us, that we talk to, engage with, as well as how many members from Bayer are participating at Out and Equal. For the personal and career development, that kind of overlaps with some of the culture pillar. As far as some of those events that we are having, they get tracked on a spreadsheet. And I'm sorry. They track the amount of members that attend and the sites that attend for the personal and career development options.
Great, thanks, Jacqueline. And just a reminder, make sure you're muting yourselves if you're not one of our presenters. Appreciate it. Let's hop over to business. Greg, tell us what you guys are doing. Are you all, sorry, doing it, I know, one of those things. What are you all doing to track within the business pillar?
No, that's perfectly fine. I should note that the business pillar is the newest of our pillars. We called it something else, but it was a very deliberate move to actually call it business, to link it to our business and our business concerns. We do collaborate with other corporations that are not only competitors of ours, but also within the communities that we serve. The US and primarily the St. Louis chapter has done a great job of paving the way for engagement with other LGBTQ plus elements or BRGs from other businesses. We also look within our own business to see if there's a way for us to collaborate with those that we collaborate on a day-to-day basis. An example of that is the National Hemophilia Foundation. The NHF actually just started an entire business element of their work, which is devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And because we work with them on a business perspective, they actually invited us to participate on their steering committee for the development of their similar track. Additionally, we, sorry, my computer just blipped. Additionally, we consult within our own businesses on marketing campaigns and other business relevant concepts. I'll share with you in a few minutes one of those, but we've worked with our women's health group within pharmaceuticals to help them determine what language they're using. And additionally, in our consumer health, to help figure out, are they representing all people in their campaigns? And then finally, we use diverse suppliers, not only for our blend work, but we're also challenging our other supplier efforts to make sure that who we are working with outside of our own blend is a company that has the same focus on the LGBTQ plus community.
Great, thanks so much. Really good to hear that we're focused on looking for diversity across our business and with those that we do business with. Really great. Last but not least, again, Beth, tell us about what's going on that's measurable and being tracked within the brand area.
Right. So because brand is all about community engagement and how we represent Bayer as employees within the community, since pandemic has started, it's been a lot of virtual sessions instead of in person, which I think everybody can relate to. So it's how are we partnering with those nonprofits across the country that our individual chapters engage with, and tracking how many Bayer employees attend maybe a virtual event, and then because of our sponsorship or attendance at that virtual event, how many community members do we reach? So those are the numbers that we are trying to monitor and manage to make sure that we are in fact getting the impact into the community that we hope to have.
Great, thank you, Beth. We got a really good question in the chat before we move on. For the goals that we, are there goals tied to the measurables that we're talking about here? And if so, what kind of outcome have we had? And are there any best practices that we feel like we could share from these the higher than expected results we've gotten? Anybody have feedback from our panel there?
Well, I can start with one. As we worked with our consumer health group on the Midol campaign, the actual brand team tracked responses through social media. And those people that identified as a member of the community, they tracked how many of those comments in social media were about what you will see shortly. Additionally, when we're looking at collaborations outside of the organization, for example, the NHF example that I gave, we're collaborating on what metrics we actually should be tracking. So we're building out a dashboard to figure out what this collaboration means to the LGBT plus community. So we've had some, and we're developing others, but it's a good question, and the measurables and the tracking and the data associated that will only help to bolster and strengthen the support that we get from within our organization, from leadership and from a resource perspective.
Right, and I'll follow up with that. With some of the goals that we've had this year as a US Blend chapter to increase chapter membership and increase the amount of chapters that we have, or chapters in development as we call them, that maybe don't have large enough of engaged employees at their sites because they're smaller, but they want to have some impact, or they want to have some contribution to the larger Bear Blend organization. So we've been doing that, and we have goals to increase those numbers. In addition, we also have goals to increase the number of events that we put on to bring employees along as an on the ally journey that you saw earlier and you'll see again later. So we're making sure that we have that continued engagement and making sure that we have a presence that our employees know that we're there and they can come to us with any kind of questions, and we have resources available to help them through that. So those are some of our big goals.
Adding to that one more thing, our chapters are doing the same thing. An example is we have an emerging chapter that's moving very well from Puerto Rico. And they have multiple sites. And what they're doing is, as they pulse out communications for recruitment for both allies and members of the community, they're tracking how many additional members they get based on that communications pulse. So, you know, we're really trying to flesh out, not only at the chapter level, but nationally and internationally, you know, what the efforts are from recruitment and from other things, what the results are coming from those efforts.
Really great. Thanks for sharing the additional experiences. Now, Frankie, if you want to go to that next Menti question for us. We'll ask our everybody on the call, what role do you play in your company's business resource groups? Just so we get an idea of where we're seeing everybody from. Looks like we have a lot of leaders. One looking to create a BRG, which is great. I hope you find this helpful. Some distribution list members, that's always great. Active members. Hope this energizes you all. This conference, I think, is always a fantastic way to really gain some momentum and start building and creating structure. And if you start from the very beginning, I think you'll find that it becomes a lot easier to develop as a group and grow throughout your organization, especially if you're just looking to get started. No matter the size of your business, if you've got a great plan and a great structure to get you going, you can always build on it. I just reshared the Mentimeter link too. It looked like we needed it another post of it so everybody could join and give us their answers. I can't see it because I see a recording banner at the top, but there should also be the number at the top of your screen if you can see it. Someone posted that in the chat. I think Jessica, thanks for the assist there. Appreciate it. So really great to see. We've got lots of leaders, so hopefully you all are engaged and are thinking about the structure that you're bringing to your organizations. The next question that we're going to address with our panelists is, you know, we think about the LGBT identity, and because it's something that's internal and not always something that we wear on the outside, it can really intersect with any and all other identities, and all of those things playing together, intersectionality, we create all these cultures of cultures. or a culture of cultures. So when we think about these intersectionalities, how have your part of the organization or your pillar, what are you doing to create those intersections and with other affinity groups within your organization to help create more change and facilitate connections between your different members, and really create more discussion across your organization? I think we have a couple examples on the next slide, and we can start with Beth talking about family intersection.
Right. So one of the main intersectionality sessions that we held this year was with our Family Connections Network, and then Arise, which is those of African descent network within other BRGs within Bear. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my words. So we held this, since we are family, and you can see it's the progressive flag, because we wanted to represent the total intersection. And we had a focus on raising transgender or gender nonconforming youth, and how in those within the LGBT youth community were being impacted, and how you could be a better ally to those, whether it be family member, children, just friends that you may have. Sorry if you hear squeaking dog toys. So we brought in one of the local directors of the PFLAG, and we brought in a therapist and a medical professional to be on a panel and answer questions for employees who were interested in attending and had concerns, whether they that were meaningful to them around transgender and gender nonconforming youth.
Yeah, that was a really great event. I really appreciated it. And I know I've had an opportunity to talk to some parents within our organization that had questions before that event and have since gone back and looked at the recording and find it really useful. So that was a really great example of an intersection we were able to bring in. And really, that goes to parents acting as allies to their kids. It was really fantastic. We have another example here with Enable. And Greg, I think you were going to talk to us about that one.
Yes, so Enable is one of the other BRGs that we work with, and that's the BRG that's devoted to and works on behalf of people with disabilities, all disabilities. And so they created an opportunity with an organization called Disability In, which many of you probably are familiar with. And together, the two organizations created an incredible webinar that talked about disabilities. And I note this because the leadership from Enable approached Blend to ask how they could be talking through this, because they're not from the community, with an external organization like Disability In. So they came to us, asked for guidance, and this was one of the most incredible presentations I've ever seen. And they gave statistics about members of the disabled community. There's some 15 million in the US that identify with disabilities who are from the LGBTQ plus community. And in fact, one of their primary speakers at this event was a gentleman who is also on one of the other plenary sessions from this event that you're involved in today. So it's not necessarily a Disability In Enable Blend cooperative, but where we intersected was when they came to us for guidance on how to actually involve themselves in this topic.
Great, thanks for sharing that, Greg. Next, I think we have a great example of intersectionality from our culture pillar. Paul, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've had that's gone very successfully is some podcast discussion groups where folks will get together, listen to a short podcast together, and then have the opportunity to have a discussion as a group. We've done that with several different topics, but we had the opportunity to highlight Hispanic Heritage Month this past month. And a couple weeks ago, we met with Unidos, which is our Latin community business resource group at Bear. And we're able to get together and discuss just different different ways people can view discrimination, how that might fit in with communities where we have some intersectionality, and how we may experience things differently, but it may also be similar the way that it feels when you get there. So being able to partner with some of those other groups when we talk about that culture of cultures, this is another way that we're able to really show that we intersect and we have lots of the same types of experiences, even though we may come from different places.
And
Yeah,
Jesse,
I really appreciate that with our ally journey within Blend, I think is really well established and is kind of what we built all our pillars on. And so we've been able to connect that ally journey and help some of our other BRGs at the company think about how they can create and form a journey for their allies. And it's something that everybody can be an ally to any other group that they're not a part of or that they even are a part of, and just be better at helping to support others who also need extra voice to make themselves heard or to gain equal treatment or better treatment. There's so many different groups that can use our voices, and we know we want their voices in support of us. So it's really great to see.
It's not on the slide, but just to share another example of that, when the BLM movement got at the forefront of the news last year, we were able to connect with Arise, which is our African descendants group, and we were able to take our ally journey and share that with them, and they were able to find a journey that fit with their group as well, fit a little bit better for them than what our tiers were. But we were able to discuss and share our best practices from that. And then we also made sure that we aligned so that as we work with our employees, people had a consistent view of how an ally journey should fit, even if we didn't use all the same terminology. So lots of good examples that we can pick from here, but that's one that I'm pretty proud of, that we were able to connect with that group and really share a lot of things during the month of June when we've got a lot of things to share. We use our platform to help elevate their message, which I'm very proud of.
Jesse, may I add something? Additionally, it's not shown here, but the events of the last 18 months have been very interesting. And we worked with our other BRG, Beja, which is dedicated to people of Asian descent. And we approached them. One of the chapters was doing quite a bit of work, and we approached them to remind them that during the events that occurred and the abuses that were occurring, we highlighted the fact that there's a disproportionate amount of transgendered people from the community who are abused and hurt and singled out. And they were happy to hear that. And they actually included that in one of their town hall meetings. And so bringing this intersectionality from within the concerns of our community is something that we try to do as well.
Great, thanks for highlighting that for us, Greg. Jacqueline, I think you were going to talk to us about this event around raising LGBTQ allies as well. If you can unmute yourself. There we go.
Sorry, I was trying to hold the space bar down and it wasn't working. Yeah, so last month we had an opportunity to host an event on how to raise LGBTQ allies. This event featured author Chris Tompkins. He wrote the book Raising LGBTQ Allies, A Parent's Guide to Preventing the Messages from the Playground. He was able to engage and speak with our members about the importance of raising allies, and was able to cover topics of looking at internal biases and where our belief systems come from, addressing internal homophobia, looking at the importance of the language that we're using and selecting, what benign neglect is and the impact it can have. And then also about living in a heteronormative society. And he was able to, share with us that by bringing awareness to homophobia and transphobia, these thoughts and beliefs and our willingness, we can create this change. And that addressing these messages and beliefs through authentic communication with children at a young age can prevent future generations from adopting these homophobic and transphobic beliefs. And we're going to be able then to create allies. I think it was a really powerful message that he brought and delivered to our members. And this event was basically created because after we had done a Pride 101 event earlier in the year, a lot of our members were asking, how do we speak to our children? How do we get them to be allies? How do we get them to be open-minded? And I saw this as a gap, and this book was a perfect example, and Chris was able to come in and speak to it, and our members, I think, really enjoyed it.
Jesse,
Great.
I'd like to add one thing. The question that came before about measuring the success, I just got back from an actual face-to-face meeting in Boston, and one of the colleagues I was with came to me and said, "Thank you for that session." She said that it changed the way that she and her husband were communicating with one of their children. She said it was a game changer. So, sometimes those measurables are one at a time.
Yeah, great reminder. Yeah, if you can touch one person and help them, it can all be worth it. We also have some more examples, I think, Jacqueline, that you were gonna share with us of other instances we've been able to work with different events.
Yes, this is one that definitely directly ties back to the talent pillar. We were able at the local level to partner with GROW, which is our women's leadership group, to host a book club for personal development and professional development. The book selected was How to Be an Inclusive Leader. And the author brought a lot of perspective from the LGBTQ community and her insight and what her experiences have been. And we were able from this to have between 20 people, I think we started with about 20 people, meet in a safe space where we were able to have an open dialogue and to really have good discussion around the discussion questions. And this is something that we're planning on rolling out at the US level in 2022.
Great, thanks for sharing that. It's good to see that we have had such good success there that we can increase where we're putting our focus next year. Rolling into our next question then, what is an example you can share that's really tangible of where the Blend BRG has helped with leading change? Greg, I think you alluded to this example earlier, but why don't you get started? Frankie, if you go to our next slide. Oh, did we reorder something? Oh, there we go.
Right. So, we talk about business representing intersections. And the examples that I'm sharing with you today are from our women's health group and from our consumer health group. At the top, you see our My Doll campaign, and you see Miriam. And Miriam identifies as non-binary. And this was something that the My Doll team came to Blend and asked, how do we actually show up and represent all people who could benefit from our product? And we had planned to share Miriam's story on a video, but it just didn't work out. But I'd urge you to take a look at that. Just Google Miriam My Doll. And Miriam talks about their journey and how to reject the script and the shame. And it was really an inspirational figure in representation of the true need across that business. And then the second one I'll share is we have a women's health group, and the name alone is like, okay, the women's health group, but that's what it is. And they have a program which is called We're For Her. And this is a program that helps to provide critical products for those who need them that are from marginalized, underrepresented communities or don't have access to care. But they came to us and said, we're not sure if we're covering everybody, because the products that are actually being looked at, sometimes they don't just apply to people who identify as women, right? And so they contacted us to ask how they could, and the branding is we're for her, but how could they create language around this for those who have the potential to need the product. And so Beth actually linked them up with our transgendered working group, and it allowed them to change language so that they showed up in a different way and were representing the entire communities that they serve. So our businesses are seeking advice from us to ensure that our community is also included in the language and in the evolution of their programs and their campaigns.
That's really great to hear. Thanks so much for sharing those stories with us, Greg. I think, Jacqueline, you also had some personal development opportunities to share with us.
Yes, thank you, Jesse. So as part of the the culture as well as the talent lead, to kind of combine together, we've been working on increasing personal development by increasing knowledge around LGBTQ observation days / weeks. We have been currently highlighting about 25 that we've been recognizing, and that list gets evaluated every single year, and we're constantly adding to it because we want to be able to increase awareness, to be able to build intersectional allyship throughout the community. So for an observation day, educational slides are created. These slides are available to the chapter leads in our Blend Microsoft Teams group. And I post them on Yammer for everybody to have access to, as well as then the local leads can then highlight them and email them out if they so choose. But it's information that we're getting from, reputable sources and being able to share. And some of these also have made it into our newsletter, the news beat that gets published on a monthly basis. So we've been able to increase that awareness around these days and be able to give more attention or information to make sure that our members are knowledgeable around these days so that they can help other people.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks for sharing that, Jacqueline. Beth, I don't think we have it on the slide, but I think we do have another example of our transitioning guidelines that you were a part of helping to get established. Do you have anything to share on that?
Right. So as Greg alluded to a little bit earlier in his slides, I'm a member of the Transgender Working Group, which was a subcommittee of the Global Blend team. And as a part of that this year, what we really tried to focus on is the transgender or employee transition policy at work. So we had a whole project documentation put together. We got we got the Transgender Working Group engaged, and we put it to the US Blend LT for review and some other key players within HR. And we really put what was a guideline and has now become a policy for our US HR organization on information that is targeted for the business, the employee, the manager, all as a part of this transition workflow that is going to become a policy document starting November 1st. So we've worked on this all of 2021, and it is something that we're really proud of, that anybody who comes to their manager or to their HR partner and says, I am transitioning to non-binary, gender non-conforming, I'm transitioning to another gender, here's how I want to express my true self at work, and be known as. We have that opportunity now, and we have documentation for how everything's going. And we're also working with HR to put together all of the HR forms that need to be managed as well, because we know that there are tax implications. There are ways of changing name and gender as internally versus externally and all of that. So what does HR process need to look like as well? So we're rolling that out in the US on November 1st. We're also looking at rolling something out in Brazil, Germany, and Canada this year. So it's great. And we're doing a guideline for how everything can work, and just changing some wording for the other countries.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that all, Beth. I think a really good question that kind of bounces off of that came in the chat. Sorry, Frankie, I keep going through more questions. Daniela asked us, when we're having collaborations with our business units, do they always have to come to the BRGs to get assistance, or do we have any forums set up where BRGs are introduced to these business initiatives, and how business units support and recognize work that's done by BRGs when it contributes to that effort that they're trying to do?
So
Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, sorry, Greg. One example that I can really think of is what we did this year is one of our business units does a monthly I&D topic. So they invite different people to come in, and we have tabled, and we have different days that we, represent the BRGs. So what we did with this, what we call a town hall, was really discuss with the employees of that subgroup, what is Blend? What are some of the issues that Blend faces? How can we educate on anything? And since the group was mostly focused in the state of Missouri, we went through some of the legal issues that some of the trans youth were facing this year in the state of Missouri. And that really opened it up to having coffee chats and follow-ups. So those members of that organization internally would become better allies for our community and to all the communities, of intersection that has transgender youth in sports. So it was a great opportunity.
Awesome. Greg, did you have anything to add?
Sure, I'll add to that and build on that. One of the things that Blend has done from a global perspective, and we're working on in the US, is benchmarking. And so we can gather data and find data sources that we then can take to our business groups and say, here's who is represented in your customer base, and here's the number that identify from within this community. Once they see that kind of data, they start to take a little bit of a different stance. So while the two examples that I gave you were the business coming to Blend, we're now focusing on how do we go to the business when we find opportunities that could give them an edge and actually have them show up in a different way. Bear US has very high scores on how we show up in the measurables from within our community. Now we'd like to see how do we ask our businesses to consider us as they're putting resources against their campaigns and their approach to reaching out to their customer base.
Great, thanks for sharing. Now I think we can go to that next slide in Menti. And this one is a word cloud. So you can enter 3 different words in here on how you track progress within your BRG. So let's see how everybody is doing it. I know we have a lot of leaders, so you should have different ideas to share with us. Looks like we're seeing some flow in now. Membership, events, engagement scores, participants, touch points, leadership involvement. Yes, this word cloud is growing. I love it. Looks like engagement, attendance, membership, and events are big ones. Participation. Yes, all of these volunteers I see floating around in there too. How many people are we getting to? Where our community is being affected, really great way. Survey feedback, that's another really good one on, I know we also have something that we are working on, and that is kind of a challenge with a global organization because there's different statuses legally with LGBT individuals, getting to a point where we can get self-reporting on what community people identify with becomes a great way to see how many people out of the community are you able to get in touch with your BRG. Different affinity groups have a little bit easier of a time of tracking that when they're at least in the United States, but there's different laws and things in other countries that make it a little bit more tricky for us to do. But it's really a great place for us to start looking to see where we're affecting our community members. While that word cloud is still going in, Megan sent in a question. What sorts of stats do you have regarding business benchmarks, or are you measuring these using internal methods? So I think, Greg, that probably is a question to you.
So that's a great question, and it's an evolutionary question because we don't really have an infrastructure that supports that. So I mentioned that the Midall group was actually tracking, how many comments came in relative to Miriam's story. That's new for us, but that's not something that our customer business insights group would actually explore. The other benchmarking opportunities, I think, are let's learn from other corporations. An example of that is when I started the Blend chapter in Switzerland, where I was doing my expat assignment, we worked across different businesses and different corporations. So we partnered with, from a Blend perspective, we partnered with similar resource groups from Roche, Genentech, Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, also Credit Suisse, Helvetia Insurance, because some of those organizations are already tracking this kind of stuff. And knowing that data and real world evidence are important when you start talking to your internal business partners, learning from them and taking their data, because their data is the same as what we would be doing, and trying to figure out how do we build bespoke data gathering mechanisms that are specific to the LGBTQ plus community relative to the businesses that we have. So it's in evolution. These things take time, but the good news is that there's an appetite for that. So good question.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that answer, Greg. We have another one that came in from Amber. How are we keeping members engaged in the time of COVID when everything is so virtual? Paul, maybe that's a good one for you with culture.
Yeah, I think when COVID hit, that was a really big slap in the face for everyone. But I know that as I was looking at things we were planning, doing things virtually was not how we were planning to do most of the events. So as we have switched this, we have people within our organization that have still shown up to work every day. I work with our production facilities that make commercial corn. So I have people that are on lines on manufacturing floors that are working. But myself, I've been working from home since March of 2020. Haven't gone back to the office to pick up my stuff yet. Really worried about that coffee mug that's still on my desk. But we've got people that are really in different situations. And so as we look to offer these things to them, we know that there are people that are going to be involved in things like shift work, or they may be working from home, or they may be going into the office some days. I think, Jacqueline, that might fit a little bit on what you're doing. And so as we did that, we really have started to explore options. We use Microsoft Teams as a corporate platform, and we're able to record events so that people can see them at different points and times during the day. We've really shifted a lot of our stuff to virtual versus any in-person per corporate policy. That's what we have to do, and that's what we still do. And so as we shift those things, we really try to put them on platforms that people can access on their own time, or in different locations and different situations. It's worked out pretty well. I think we've been able to get a fair number of attendees on it. I think you can usually get more people to show up to an event if you offer things like food, but when you can't do that virtually, you offer what you can, and really using collaborative tools like Teams and being able to record those has really helped us get through that particular situation and keep people engaged.
Yeah, I think being in the St. Louis culture pillar, we've had the opportunity to also have, learning events and things like that we've shared today, but we've also had opportunities to have fun events that just like are lighthearted and get everybody connected, kind of like those social hours that we used to have. Like we had a really fun drag trivia. Like we had a drag queen that was friends with Beth that we knew, and they came and did a really great trivia night with us. And it was just fun and engaging and a good way to kind of bring back that social piece that a lot of us are missing when we're working from home. Because similar to Paul, I was in the St. Louis site, and now I'm actually working remotely permanently from Pennsylvania. So I don't get to have those same touch points as in the past. So being able to have those engaging conversations and just activities really helps to create more energy and excitement like you can when you're in person. Greg, you're going to say something too.
Yeah, on top of the, trying to stay engaged in a fun way, we're also still trying to build out some organizations or chapters. We have 3 emerging chapters, and one way that we've stayed engaged in trying to help them to continue to move forward, even when we're not in a face-to-face environment, is as U.S. leadership team members, we reach out to them. And we create opportunities to have virtual interactions with them to continue to keep them motivated and excited about building out their chapters. And one interesting thing that happened, one of the people from within the US or the Whippany site in New Jersey, which is where our pharmaceuticals is headquartered, reached out to me and said, can we do a virtual happy hour or a virtual coffee time just to stay engaged on the topic, because we're not together. And so those sort of virtual water cooler discussions have helped to keep the evolution moving.
Yeah, great. I think we have time for this one last question, and then I'll close for us. How do we increase our ERG membership and recruit for core team members?
We're going through that right now, even within our own Blend organization. We have leads that rotate off every 2 years, and so recruiting for leadership, it can be difficult. But I think one of the most important things that you can do is widely disseminate through your internal channels the work that you're doing and the value that you're bringing. It's not just about pride for us. It's about legislation. It's about protecting people. It's about ensuring that our company has policies in place to make sure that we are doing the right things. And if we widely disseminate the work that we're doing as the BRG, people start to take notice. And don't underestimate the incredible power of the ally journey. You don't have to be from a community or from within a community to care about it. For example, I'm part of BRAVE, which is our BRG for veterans. Being a veteran, it was appropriate. I'm also part of Enable because I have a disability. And so, recruiting cross-functionally or cross-BRG and widely disseminating the work that you're doing is a great way to recruit.
Paul, I think you had a thought. I saw you unmute.
I was just going to say, it's keeping your ear to the ground, looking at who shows up to your events and how they engage. So anytime I've got the opportunity to share with a manager or folks that we're looking for people that may need a development opportunity, that's where we find some good folks that come in and do some work with us. I know we were able to pull some folks in to our communications committee early this year, and they've worked out very well. So always keeping that open, always saying, hey, we're looking for more people, getting people involved in committees, even if they're not in a leadership position yet, helping get them ready to go. Those are all different ways that we look for it, but really that development conversation is one that really sells being a business resource group, helps it tie back to their employee development, but then it also supports the organization and the business resource group.
Hey, Jesse, I want to add one other thing. I saw a question earlier about, how do you manage having your day job and then also contributing to a BRG? Because some people are afraid that once you get involved with a business resource group, that it's going to affect your productivity as in what you're getting paid to do. And I know that there's a movement within BEAR at the global level, which will eventually come to the US, where there will be a policy that says, if you are part of a BRG, you are allowed to devote X% of your time to that. So, advocating for things like that and policy changes and ensuring that it doesn't matter how much you're involved. You don't have to be on the leadership team. As a member, you can have a contributing voice. That can also help to the recruiting efforts.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all of our panelists and everybody who participated. Great questions. Thanks for submitting those through the chat. I hope that this session was valuable for you to see how Bayer has been working on developing structure within our BRG to build on that and grow what we're able to do within the business. And you can see that the 4 pillars worked really well for us and is a model that you can take back to your BRGs and your businesses and think how you can use these same ones or develop ones that work best for your brand and your organization and the size of the things that you're doing. So thank you all again so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you on the rest of the sessions throughout the rest of the summit. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Great session.
Yes, thank you all.